Hi, everyone, and Happy New Year from all of us at Con Selmer. We hope you enjoyed a much deserved time with your family over the holidays, and you're ready to take on the new year. We're so glad that you joined us here for the first lunch with leaders and legends for 2023. Super excited about our guest today, Colonel Jason Fettig, none other than the commander of the President's own United States Marine Band, is going to be with us. Unfortunately, last week, there was a conflict with him being here live with us, so we had to pre-record this just the other day. Imagine the commander of the Marine Band having an important meeting that he can attend to, but we certainly understand, and he was so gracious and so flexible. So we will play that recording for you. If any of you have specific questions for him, since he can't answer them live, we will definitely check the chat, and I can get those questions to him, and we'll put them on our Music Administration Collaborative Facebook page. So again, thank you for joining us. A couple of housekeeping things. Just to let you know, again, first Wednesdays, next one will be February 1st at 1 o'clock Eastern time, 12 o'clock noon. So we hope you'll join us then. Reminder about our Con Summer Institute, which is June 11th through the 14th this coming summer in Mishawaka, Indiana, at Bethel University. We'd love to have you join us. Registration information is available online. So, and again, as a reminder, we have a complete music administration collaborative track just for music program leaders or anyone who's interested in music program leadership. Please join us for that. Another event I want to make you aware of, especially for those of you on the West Coast and especially in California, we are thrilled to partner once again with the Southern California School Band and Orchestra Association, and we will have a Music Administration Day on January 20th, Friday, January 20th. You can find that registration information online as well at scsboa.org. And you can register just for the Music Administration Collaborative Day if you would like. We've got some great guest speakers, including our own Dr. Tim Lotzenheiser and some wonderful folks in California who are going to share some great information with you. So without further ado, we'd like to go ahead and roll the tape from Colonel Jason Fettig, United States Marine Band. Well, we can go ahead and get going. Colonel Fettig, thank you for joining us. I got lucky. I was at the right place at the right time when you were at the high school several weeks ago, and we're able to lock you into this, and we're so glad that you could join us. We call this Lunch with Leaders and Legends, and people will always ask me, well, which one am I? Am I a leader or a legend? Definitely a leader, with all due respect to the others. I try to, say, well, the legends are generally the people that are, more senior than we are, but yes, certainly anybody that's been the commander of the President's own is destined to be a legend. So we're just going to call it like it is. So we appreciate you being with us so much in such a busy schedule. So what we like to do is find out a little bit about our guests that people might not normally know. So tell us just a little bit about your background.
Well, first of all, Rick, thank you for having me on this program. I'm deeply appreciative of the chance to chat and talk a little shop. And I will take the moniker of leader, and I definitely will defer the one of legend for many, many years to come. So thanks for that introduction. I'm originally from New Hampshire, small state, relatively speaking, small musical state as well. And I grew up and went to a fantastic high school band program. I was so lucky to have the teachers I had growing up and shaping me and encouraging me to want to get into music. And so it was during high school I decided to make music my career. Of course, at that point, I had no aspiration to be the director of the President's own United States Marine Band. I was a kind of a product of happenstance and a little bit of luck, which we can talk about in a bit, but went to college actually for music education. I was excited to be a band director. I was going to be a middle school or high school band director, was a clarinetist, and got through my education. And my clarinet teacher encouraged me to add a performance degree to my education degree. So I did, which of course came with extra practicing, extra recitals. Had no idea at that point if I would be qualified to be a professional clarinetist. And it really didn't matter to me because I was very excited about teaching. I ended up taking the Marine Band audition on a whim. I had not known much about the band except for its reputation. I, of course, knew it was world famous. And I came across an advertisement for a clarinet audition just by accident as I was touring another group called the American Wind Symphony in the summer of 1997. I'm dating myself now. And so I was so curious about this. I was like, what would it take to win an audition with the President's Own? Was I even in the ballpark? And I just started thinking about it. I called and I got the repertoire and I started practicing the repertoire and got to the end of that process, which was about 3 weeks before the audition. And I decided not to go to the audition because I thought that I was not qualified. I wasn't playing the music well enough. I wasn't going to go make a fool out of myself. So I wasn't going to go. And at the very last minute, one of my parents said, why don't you just fly down to Washington? What have you got to lose? And I thought about it and said, you're probably right. And it was the first time I was going to take a professional audition. That was probably why I was so concerned about it. But I took a chance, flew down there. At the end of that day, long story short, I won that audition and was offered a chance to become a member of the President's Own. My whole world just shifted at that moment because I was going to be a band director. I was going to be a conductor. And now I'm going to go be a professional clarinetist in one of the greatest bands in the world.
Right.
So I did that.
Was the military in your family at all? Did you have any inclination of doing that?
Not really. My grandfather served in World War II very proudly. But other than that, there really wasn't a military tradition in my family on either side. So yeah, it wasn't really on my radar to join the Marine Corps. But now that I had, and I did, and, worked my way through the ranks and have the privilege to be a colonel now, it's so deeply ingrained in me, that aspect of service and military service, that it's become a permanent part of my identity, which I'm thrilled to acknowledge.
Right. Well, you definitely wear that well. So I can only imagine that going from music education classes to whatever you had to do to become a Marine, there were some probably very specific things, daily routines that you had to abide by just to get through, your daily life. So what was that like? And do you have any daily routines now that you keep up with that help you do your job?
I do. And, just right from the outset of joining the Marine Corps and being a member of the band, even though I was a professional clarinetist, the aspect of discipline and, scheduling and organization and reliability just gets ingrained in you from day one. And I think that really set me up for success. I was kind of wired that way anyway, but it really solidified those qualities. So as a clarinet player, you got to be where you need to be on time with the right qualifications, the right equipment, the right preparation to be successful. And that routine became a daily part of my life. And when I became a director, an assistant director, and then later the director of the band, my capacity to organize and to prioritize was paramount, because all of a sudden I had all of these responsibilities, all of these disparate tasks that I had to do, both in the musical and non-musical realm. And I had to figure out how to get them all done, and get them all done at, of course, the high level that is expected of our organization. And so today, as director of the band, that prioritization, the organizing of your tasks and figuring out what's the most important, what's the closest bear to the Jeep that you need to be aware of, is the first step. But the thing that every administrator and every leader, senior leader, knows is that your plan is going to go haywire almost immediately. You've got it organized, you've got your priority, you're going to spend this day taking care of this task, and then some emergency comes in that's going to take your attention completely away from that. And that could be really disconcerting when you're trying to get things done and you're not allowed to follow the plan that you had. But it also cultivates this great sense of flexibility and this great sense of redirection and multitasking, and still coming back to what you need to get done and finding a way to get it done. It comes with a cost of stress, of course, but if you have that process, it can make leadership a lot more effective and a lot more tolerable.
So kind of going back maybe to your high school experience, do you felt like being in the marching band and in the band program in high school sort of prepared you for those those kinds of things that you had to do every day, all the structure?
Yeah, I think being a musician in general and being a musician in a program that really asks you to be the best that you can possibly be, that's leadership training 101. That's the very beginning, because you're given a set of responsibilities, whether they just be to be prepared on your part, and you're expected to show up and execute those responsibilities and then do it in a collaborative, collegial way as well, to be able to do your job. But as we all know, as band members, as ensemble players and conductors, that the collaboration is the overarching goal of all of that. So my band program, both in college, high school, and in college, really set me up for success, because my teachers not only asked me to be responsible and to maximize my potential in my particular job, but as I got more and more comfortable, they gave me more and more responsibility. So I was in a situation, I was the drum major in my high school band. And by the time I was a senior, now I was learning how to be a leader, learning how to communicate to my peers, not people I'm in charge of every day, but my equals. But then I'm responsible for their success as well as mine. And then in college, same thing, being given more and more responsibility to exercise those muscles, to understand how it felt to be a leader, especially early on in my career. And I do think that set me up for success when I got into the Marine Band, and as I gained those experiences and elevated through the rank structure.
And so how would you describe your leadership style? Or if I asked the the young people that were under you when you were a drum major, or if I asked members of the current organization, what your leadership style is, do you think that they would say the same thing that you would say?
It's hard to know. As leaders, we always wonder how we're perceived by those whom we lead, by those who lead us, and that we follow those orders. I think rule number one is you need to be as good of a follower as you are as a leader. I always try to keep that in mind when I'm making decisions, is that would I be okay with following this direction, especially if I didn't 100% agree with it? And what would I need to know from my leaders to feel comfortable following that direction and following those orders, those responsibilities? I don't know if I'm the same leader today as I was when I was in high school as the drum major. I like to believe that my leadership style and my ability has grown over the years. One of the things that I've tried really hard not to do, and this ties right into my leadership philosophy, is not become jaded to the fact that the connection you have with people is of paramount importance. No matter how much success you've had as a leader, no matter how many good decisions you've made, you could always make a bad one in the next decision. And so empathy is at the center of all of those things. Trying your very hardest within your wiring and within your responsibilities to be empathetic to those around you that are affected by your decisions. Now, sometimes you have to make decisions that are either not congruent with the people that are you're leading, or that may be not great for them individually, even if they're good for the organization. And those decisions are very difficult. Those are the ones that hurt the most. But if you're thinking about it deeply, and if you're still aware of what that impact is going to be to the best of your ability, that is a form of empathy. Doesn't mean that you're going to make everybody happy all the time. That's actually impossible. But you do need to be cognizant of how it impacts people and acknowledge that. And, one of the things I've tried to do in my leadership and make time for is to deliberately acknowledge the impact of those decisions, either to the group as a whole or down to the individual person, to meet with them and say, look, I made this decision. I know it's not great for you. Here was the thinking. Here's what went into it. Here's who I talked to before I made that decision and collaborated with. And I understand, and I want to understand how it impacts you. And let's talk about it.
Thank you for sharing those things, because I think, as you probably know, these sessions are really designed for music program leaders, fine arts directors, music directors, or anybody that's just interested in the topic itself. So those kinds of things are really beneficial for us all to hear. We appreciate you sharing those with us. This is probably a really wide open question, and you probably get asked this a lot, but what's it like to be the commander of the President's Own?
I do get asked a lot, and I have a different answer every time I hear it, because my mind shifts as the more I do, privileged to do this job. One thing that's consistent is equal parts elation and utter fear, because and they toggle back and forth depending on the day and depending on what's happening at any given time. Of course, I feel the tremendous weight of responsibility of leading, at least helping to lead this established, historic, amazing American institution. When I think about the thousands of people that have come before us, both in leadership and as players in the band and staff members of the band, and what success they have built over 225 years, to include, of course, the likes of John Philip Sousa. Those are the days when my heart skips a beat and I think, oh my gosh, don't you dare screw this up. I joke with people that, of all the responsibilities I have as director of the President's Own, my number one responsibility is to not be the last director of the President's Own. Make sure we perpetuate this organization, we build on it, we hand it off with this beautiful, warm handoff to our successors so they continue that work. So it is stressful. There are days when I worry about my capacity to be the best steward of this organization, both as a musician and as a leader. But then the elation kicks in. Then we have a chance to do something on a regular basis, whether it's at the White House for the president or it's on an international tour for the Czech people. We played music for Prague for our Czech brothers and sisters during this time of crisis we're in right now. Whether it's traveling around the country and playing for ordinary citizens and veterans and musicians and students all over the country, and just feeling that visceral response to that, having this chance to hear the band play and perform. Those moments cannot be replaced emotionally. I mean, they are burned into my brain with these glowing, beautiful, golden memories that will be with me for the rest of my life. And so that helps to offset the stress and the worry and the anxiety. And in many ways, from a leadership perspective, it helps to inform those moments and help calm me, because I know that we can be successful. I know how important this organization is to so many around the world. And I know that we do a good job. And so if I can remember that in those times when I have to make difficult decisions or I'm worried about the weight of that responsibility, it helps give me confidence to know that it is going to be okay. And in fact, all of these decisions we're making in the best interest of the organization, no matter how difficult they are.
Right. So I know, being a former music administrator and talking to my friends that are currently and have in the past, I mean, we all struggle with that balance of, you think you're going to go into this job as an administrator with music as a background and have a lot to do with the musical ends of things, and all of a sudden you're thrust into all these meetings that have nothing to do with music, but because you're the leader of the organization, you have to be a part of all this. What is your balance? What maybe a better question is, what does a typical day look like, your musical duties compared to your administrative duties to run an organization like that?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's an important one. It would probably not surprise anybody that the majority of my responsibilities are non-musical. And I say non-musical in the sense that I'm not physically actively making music in those moments. If you pull the perspective back, 90% of the decisions and the leadership that I offer is musical in the sense that it serves the organization and serves to further the organization. So if I'm having a conversation about fiscal issues, of course that impacts the success of the Marine Band. But in a normal day, 80% of my job is to take care of this institution, take care of the people who serve it. And so looking out for personnel issues, dealing with things that are in the best interest of forward planning for the next 5-10 years of the organization, thinking about structural things, thinking about staffing issues, thinking about promotions and awards and benefits and the other things that are so important to the health and welfare of those who make up the Marine Band. And then the other 20% is actually getting on the podium and conducting concerts. So, and as you might guess, at this point in my career, the music making, even if it's on the highest levels of the stage at the White House or for a presidential inauguration or an international tour on a national TV, that stresses me out far less than the other 80%. Making the decisions behind the scenes that have such an impact on the success of the organization that nobody really gets to see. That's the sausage being made behind the scenes.
Right.
I'm much more concerned about doing the right thing there than I am waving the stick in a certain way and making sure that I don't mess that up. But the balance is important. If you lose sight of why we all got into this, which is to be artists and to be musicians and to make live music come to light, then the other part that takes up so much of our time can be depressing. You can feel like it's disconnected to that. But in reality, it's not. Many of those meetings that our colleagues, administrators, and arts leaders are in, they're still advocating for the health and welfare of the arts in public schools and in universities. Even if the meeting has nothing to do with music making, it does come back around to help perpetuate this thing that is so important to us. And when I remember that every decision I make, every meeting I'm in, every conversation I have really does come back to the organization and really does have an impact on its success, I feel much better about spending that time and putting everything I have into those conversations, even when they have nothing to do with active music making.
Right. I always had a saying that I said I never needed a fine arts degree to do the job. I needed a financial degree and a psychology degree, because it was
Yes.
about finding the money and take care of me as a person, whatever I
Yeah.
need to take care of me. So,
And Rick, the psychology degree is number one, because what I have learned in my leadership is that just like as a performer, the audience is the most important thing. You are communicating to our consumer, our audience, the people who are enjoying what we're creating. It's no different in a meeting with a chief fiscal officer or a comptroller or a commanding officer or anyone else that has, especially people that have no musical knowledge. Our job is to know our audience. Our job is to get to know what makes people tick, what's important to them, how they see the world, how we can collaborate, and how to speak a language that gets through to those who we are talking to. It takes a long time to develop that skill and to understand that it's important, and understand how to do it in a very natural and very friendly and very open way. But it is such an important skill. And it's not about manipulating your audience. It's about understanding them. It's about being empathetic to them, and ultimately trying to get to a place where what comes out of those meetings and conversations is good for both parties. It's the same thing that we do when we interact with an audience when we're making music.
sure. Well, I can tell the audience that's listening, I had firsthand experience watching you do that clinic at Midwest, and people were literally on the edge of their seats. I had people tell me that I'm not, like retired directors that say, I know I'm not even a band director anymore, but I want to go teach a march now. I mean, you really did connect well with the audience, and it was so great to hear.
Oh,
So
that's a really nice compliment. Thank you, Rick.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So you had mentioned stressful situations, and I can only imagine when you're dealing with the president of the United States, or all these other dignitaries. And not to put you on the spot, but can you share, one of the more stressful situations that you had to face and how you dealt with it? Because as you said, all our best laid plans sometimes can be turned upside down. And now what do you do as a leader to make sure
Yeah.
things go right?
Well, what you just said last is one of the things that makes some of the things your audience might think were the most stressful less stressful for me. I'll give you an example. We, of course, play for the presidential inauguration, which is for millions of people live on TV, and in normal times, hundreds of thousands of people in person. And with the first time I did an inauguration in 2017 as director, it was stressful because I had not done it before. I didn't really know what was going on, but we were well prepared. We had planned for every contingency, and everything went well. And I never felt at peace doing that because I knew all these eyes and cameras were on us. But we got through it no problem. The next time we did the inauguration in 2021, I felt much more calm, because I felt like there was enough evidence that we could do this and it was going to be great. And I was able to enjoy that ceremony so much more than I was the first time, because it felt like the chances of us being successful, even under the bright white hot spotlight, was going to be high, and it was going to be fine. So I have a very present memory of that inauguration, and that I don't necessarily have of the previous one, because I was so consumed with making sure we were doing okay. But the stressful part of that last inauguration is my answer to your question, which is the most stressful period I've ever had is the COVID period. 2020 and 2021 will always be the most stressful thing I've ever done as a leader up till this point in my career, because I was responsible for the first time in my career, in a very palpable way, with continuing to execute our high profile national mission, but also keeping my colleagues safe.
Right.
And it was an impossible situation to be in. And I was making policy and making decisions that really, in some cases, could have life or death consequences for the people who are under my command. But I also had this responsibility to keep the Marine Band active and keep it influential and keep it helping people as a resource for educators and for music lovers all over the country and for our military structure and for the president. And for that inauguration, we played in the middle of a pandemic with no vaccines at that point. So I had to make policy and decisions that I could execute our mission to provide music for the President of the United States in an international forum, knowing that it was putting my colleagues at a certain level of risk, which a risk that we needed to assume because we are United States Marines and we have a higher level of risk than your average citizen. But those decisions, every one of those decisions that I had to make during the COVID period, I wrestled with and I had angst over because I never felt like any of them were 100% right. I felt like I was making it the best decision I could, keeping in mind the safety and health of my colleagues and our responsibilities, and just hoping that it was the right decision. And it's the only period in my life where I really felt like I wasn't sure if I didn't have the information always to make the decisions that I felt very confident in. It turned out okay, Rick, but that could have gone either way. And it went on for 2 years, really. Yeah. And there were a lot of things about that taught me some valuable lessons about empathy and about leadership and about how to navigate a world that was completely unexpected. And there was no handbook as a leader for how to properly do that in our particular jobs.
Yeah, well, you've certainly been a role model for leaders and musicians, and yeah, it never seemed like the organization missed a beat, no pun intended.
Yeah.
Throughout all those times, but yeah, just fabulous work, and thank you for sharing that with us. So it's the beginning of a new year. So what's up next? What's the next big thing for Colonel Jason Fettig?
Well, the first thing is the next big thing for the United States Marine Band. This is our 225th anniversary year, and I could not be more excited about celebrating that legacy this year. Coming out of a largely post-COVID world, we're not done yet, but we are getting back to normal at the White House, getting back to normal with our live activities. We went on tour for the first time last October in 3 years, which was amazing. And this year we have so many things planned to celebrate the more than 2 centuries of history of this organization, guest artists, many commissions. It's going to be a spectacular year, and I'm super, super excited to share that with our colleagues. As far as me personally, I don't know. I'm having such an amazing time with the privilege of leading this organization. I still pinch myself every day and wonder, how in the world did I get here? How is it that I'm the one that is charged with leading this particular chapter of this incredible organization? So I know my time is coming to an end in the near future, because it's really important that this organization have the perspective of other people and continue to move forward. And after a while, as leaders, I think it is important for us to move on, because we might reach our capacity for the relationship we have with our colleagues and with the institution. We might do good work in that time, but if we stay too long, we can inhibit its growth and its success and forward motion. So this place is going to continue to go on. I will not be the last director of the Marine Band. Thank you very much.
That's right.
And I'm also really excited to be able to pass this on to my successor. And then hopefully for me, maybe go on and get back to that education career that I intended to have in the first place. I can imagine teaching full time and using whatever knowledge and experience I have gained to help pass it on to the next generation.
Gee, I don't think you'd have any trouble finding a teaching job anywhere. I think
let's hope.
I think your pedigree says it all. Yes.
I appreciate it.
Well, listen, again, I can't thank you enough. I know how busy you are, and I appreciate you spending this 30 minutes with us, sharing a little bit about your background and what's going on with the organization. And again, just thank you so much. Are you going to be at ABA in March?
I will be there.
All
Lydia,
right. Well,
Lydia and I will
look
be
forward
there.
to seeing you in person then.
I can't wait. It's always great to talk to you, Rick.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Jason.
My pleasure.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye.
Wow, that was a thrill for me to do this interview with the Colonel. As I said in the Facebook post, I could have talked to him for hours. I had so many questions that I would have liked to have asked, but just didn't have the time. So again, thank you for joining us. This recording will be available for you if you are watching it for the first time. You can rewatch it. For those people who have missed it, you can let them know that it's available on our Thinkific page. Just make sure you sign up, and you'll have access to all the things that we've done in the past, and then all the things that we're going to do in the future. So hope to see you. Again, want to remind you, Consumer Institute, June 11th through 14th. Love to see you there. Happy New Year again, everybody. See ya. Let us know how we can help.